Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Travel with Rick Steves Europe. I'm Lisa Friend, and I'm delighted to be one of your panelists this evening as Ben, Emily, Gabe, and I debate the merits of Barcelona versus Lisbon in our destination duel.
Yes, so this is our fifth time riding into battle for a destination duel, but for those who are unfamiliar, I'm going to lay out the basic format we'll follow. First, I want to establish that all four of us love and appreciate both of these cities greatly. We here at Rick Steves Europe recommend both extremely highly and provide many resources to help you enjoy them fully. That said, for the purposes of this duel, over the next hour, we are going to be fierce enemies debating the merits of these two locations, recognizing that many travelers to Spain and Portugal may need to make hard decisions with which destinations they visit, given their limited vacation time. So we are going to be fiercely debating why our Iberian metropolis deserves your vote over four categories. One is going to be street life, then sights and activities, cuisine, and finally, day trips. At the end of each of those categories, you'll have a chance to vote for which city gets the edge in that area. And after the four categories, we will have a fifth and final vote for overall impression that will be worth 40%. So 15% for each of the categories, 40% for the overall score. At the end of 5 votes, we will tally up the scores and announce a winner. But before we dive in, Ben, I know that you have an important travel note to share with us.
I do. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Lisa. Before travel jousting commences, I would like to mention an issue relevant to both Barcelona and Lisbon: over-tourism. These cities are popular for many valid reasons, and the increase in the number of visitors is not necessarily reason for you to automatically go elsewhere, but rather to travel smartly to mitigate your impact on over-tourism and its impact on you. And to be clear, the concern is not tourism, but over-tourism. Both of these cities rely on your visit for their local economy. Local reaction to over-tourism is largely directed towards local authorities and getting them to more responsibly and actively manage the number of visitors. We recommend staying overnight, if possible, and also using locally run businesses and avoiding large international companies like Airbnb. Barcelona and Lisbon are also both great off-season destinations. They're very mild in wintertime, so consider going then. You may also keep in mind that our goal ultimately is to be conscientious travelers. So we want to minimize our footprint and thoughtfully consume resources. For more on this, our Director of Content, Cameron Hewitt, has a great blog post about over-tourism that is in the chat, and it will also be in the follow-up email. With that, back to the duel and back to you, Gabe.
Thank you, Ben. Now, before we get to our first category, each team is going to lay out their basic arguments in an opening statement. And I think that we are going to start with the sharp-witted and staggeringly attractive delegation from Barcelona. So let's dive in and get going. Opening statement for the delegation of Barcelona. Barcelona deserves its place on your Iberian itinerary because it has literally been built on hospitality to people from around the world. In particular, Barcelona has grown to host 3 big international bashes. First, the 1888 World's Fair established the vast Ciutadella Park, which remains the city's biggest and greenest, with wide walking paths, a stately triumphal arch, and the city's zoo. 40 years later, the 1929 World's Fair churned out lavish fairgrounds that still host many of the city's most beloved sights: the colorful Magic Fountain, the kitschy model Spanish Village, and the museum, the National Palace that today hosts the Catalan Art Museum. Finally, in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, Barcelona pivoted from a mid-century industrial slump into cultural capital status when it hosted the Summer Games. In preparation, the city transformed miles of warehouses into pristine beaches, redesigned its roads, and expanded its green spaces. So while Lisbon may seem like the trendy new kid on the tourism block, Barcelona has been built with generations of visitors in mind and maximum travel thrills, and we will show you why it remains the gold standard of European travel.
I find Barcelona to be the most visually enchanting city in Europe, hands down, bar none. And Gabe, you are so right about Barcelona and its history of hosting great events. And while many blockbuster sites were made for visitors, Barcelona's greatest charms were designed for and inspired by its local population. The amazing and enchanting Modernismo movement in architecture, which we will dive into a little bit later, is shown here in Park Güell. Now, I also want to mention the Sagrada Familia Church. Its melting cake in the rain aesthetic have become one of the symbols of the city. It's visually stunning outside and inside this must-see site. You'll enjoy seeing at least one Modernismo apartment, such as La Pedrera or Casa Batlló. And I want our viewers to know one thing that I think is very special about Barcelona. Barcelona celebrates more festivals, markets, and street fairs than your average city. They dance the sardana, a circle dance. They build castels, human towers. They parade colorful gegants, these giant puppets, down the street. And they light up the night with firework displays called catafoc, a fire run. In fact, in spring and summer, a tiny spectacle of these local folk traditions called La Festa Catalana happens on the square in front of the cathedral every Saturday evening, May through September. So dripping in Modernismo marvels, there's no city more visually distinct and engaging than Barcelona. And with over a century of welcoming eager international visitors under its belt, there's no Iberian city better equipped to wow you with a diversity of travel thrills. Over the next hour, Gabe and I are excited to welcome you into this vibrant city and prove why Barcelona belongs on your next itinerary and why you belong in Barcelona.
Over to you, Lisbon.
Thank you, Team Barcelona. Gabe, you mentioned that Barcelona has a long history of welcoming visitors. Well, Lisbon is the oldest city in Western Europe.
You can't argue with those numbers. All right. Well, if you must choose between these two great cities, you choose Lisbon. I mean, forget Barcelona. Lisbon is one of Europe's greatest cities with a history, culture, and style that is uniquely its own. For starters, Lisbon is staggeringly beautiful. Thanks to its iconic tiles, the city is practically rainbow colored, and there are lush public parks everywhere. In fact, Lisbon was rated the 5th greenest capital in Europe in 2022. And then there's Lisbon's famous 7 hills, which provide an ample supply of breathtaking views over the city and its river. Even Lisbon's public transit is beautiful. I mean, is there a more quaint way to see a city than from a vintage trolley from the 1920s? And that brings me to my next point. Lisbon has a rich cultural heritage that the public can enjoy at its many great museums and sites. Art lovers will be satiated by the Gulbenkian Museum's 5,000-year sweep across art from around the world. Geronimo's Monastery gets us up close and personal with Portugal's Age of Discovery. And for a little magic, we can make a day trip to the Versailles of Portugal. But Lisbon is also a dynamic city, home to a new generation of creatives forging new fronts of art and culture. You can wander old palaces that now house art galleries and retail shops where local designers sell their wares. But Lisbon's best culture can be found in the streets for free, whether that's an impromptu concert, kids playing soccer in the square, or a neighborhood party that goes all month long.
Thank you, Emily. So true. And Lisbon is steeped in rich and dramatic history. It was the home base of the Age of Discovery and the expansive Portuguese Empire. The ocean remains very important to Portuguese culture today. A large portion of the country, including Lisbon, was under the control of North Africans for centuries, and this legacy can be seen in the colorful Alfama neighborhood, the oldest in Lisbon, with its medieval streets. Lisbon today is thriving. Its standard of living has increased dramatically, and it offers a Mediterranean climate that is a bit more mild than Barcelona, making it a particularly fine off-season destination, and it is an affordable place to travel. Average prices here are about 10% lower than in Barcelona. Azulejos, Portugal's iconic colored tiles, are everywhere, as Emily mentioned. They will support your steps. line buildings as you pass by, and possibly wind up in your suitcase because they're just so beautiful. You'll find a fun assortment of architectural styles across the city, from ancient and medieval churches to dramatic early modern 18th century grandeur, including one of the finest squares in Europe. The Lisbon food scene also punches well above its weight. Among the highlights is the creamy and flaky pastéis de nata. More on them later. Oh, and one of my favorite Portuguese delights is, yes, the sardine, but trust me, many of you will be converted. The quality of what's inside the can is even higher than the beautiful artwork on the outside. And let's not forget Portuguese wine, quality at very low prices. Culturally, Lisbon is bursting with opportunity to experience unique Portuguese customs. One highlight is Fado, the folk music of Lisbon's back streets. So please join Emily and I as we experience the city of the Seven Hills and all it has to offer, and learn why Lisbon is the darling of this destination duel.
Thank you, Ben. I think we pretty much had it in the bag there, but we shall continue. Our first duel of the night is a new one to Destination Duel. It is street life. And street life is essentially the culture of a city that you can enjoy for free outside in its streets. It's the character of its neighborhoods, and it's who lives there and what their lives look like. So, Ben and I wanted to start with a lightning fast orientation to Lisbon's neighborhood. This is the core of the city. In the middle, we have the Baixa, which is the downtown, and it inhabits this sort of valley between two hills. And then I will start with the Alfama and the Muraria.
And then I will take us to the Bairro Alto and Chiado neighborhoods.
All right, so as Ben said, the Alfama is Lisbon's oldest neighborhood. It's the colorful sailors' quarter that cascades down its hill towards the River Tajo. St. George's Castle is the highest point in the Alfama, built by the Moors in the 11th century. And below the castle is a medieval neighborhood built on a maze of winding alleys and tangled streets. And it is very easy to get lost, and that is intentional. The street plan was part of a defensive strategy designed to confuse and divert invaders on their way up to the castle. The Alfama is also one of the few neighborhoods in Lisbon that survived the 1755 earthquake, giving it a really unique old world charm. And in more recent history, the Alfama has evolved into a working class neighborhood home to fishermen and sailors with its own distinctive way of life. Even just a generation ago, most apartments did not have their own bathrooms. Instead, the neighborhood shared public bathrooms, and if you visited in the morning, you would probably see residents walking to the public bathrooms in their pajamas. And living in such close quarters, it's no surprise that this is a very tight-knit community. Families routinely sit down to communal dinners in the streets together. But the most popular outdoor party in the Alfama is dedicated to St. Anthony. The feast day is on June 13th, but residents keep the party going all month long. And there's even a group wedding held at the cathedral for all the couples who can't afford their own, and they get the bonus blessing from St. Anthony. And just around the corner on the same hill beneath St. George's Castle is Muraria. Muraria translates to Moorish quarter because this is where the Moors settled after the Christians sieged the city in 1147 and kicked them out of the castle and the Alfama. And today it's one of Lisbon's most diverse neighborhoods, and it's still considered the Muslim quarter. You can even see Arabic script in the subway station. Many immigrant communities from Portugal's former colonies have settled in Muraria. And wandering around the neighborhood, you can meet people from Brazil, from Goa, from Mozambique, and a dozen or so other countries. But the Muraria is most famous for being the birthplace of Fado. And you'll probably notice if you're walking around the neighborhood that many homes have hung portraits on their exterior walls. And these are actually all of famous Fado musicians who once lived in that very building.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Emily. You really highlighted the diversity of Lisbon, which I think is underappreciated. Next up, we have the spirited Bairro Alto, literally the upper district, and the trendy Chiado, perched just above the busy Baixa downtown. So let's take a tour. In this iconic Lisbon neighborhood, you'll find dramatic viewpoints, miraduros like this one you see here, linger-a-while squares, great restaurants, the century-old iron Santa Justa elevator inspired by Gustav Eiffel that links the downtown with Chiado, and fine public squares like Carmo, decorated with a gorgeous fountain and jacarandus trees from South America. And on this square is the Carmo Convent. This convent was destroyed by a 9.0 earthquake in 1755, which was one of the most dramatic and terrible events in Lisbon history. About two-thirds of the city was destroyed. And the Prime Minister of Portugal at that time, the Marquês de Pombal, directed that this church remain as it was after the quake, with its arches supported by nothing but the sky. This area is known for Art Nouveau decor. At the A Brasileira restaurant, a 100-year-old institution, you can get a cafe and sit where 20th century philosophers, poets, politicians, and cultural misfits would drop in for an espresso. And you can certainly go even if you're not a cultural misfit. The Church of Saint Roque, dedicated to the saint who protects the faithful from disease and plagues, is one of Portugal's first Jesuit churches. And the interior is particularly remarkable. This is the Chapel of St. John. It looks like it came straight from the Vatican, and that's because it did. It was constructed in the Vatican, was used for one papal mass, was deconstructed, and then shipped to Portugal. Per square inch, it is the costliest chapel ever constructed in the country. It's very impressive. This neighborhood's wrought iron balconies showcase the city's post-1755 architectural heritage, and that's really when most of the city was constructed in the style that you see today. These distinctive features highlight the city's historical period of artistic craftsmanship, blending utility and decorative design. One of Portugal's greatest poets, Luís de Camões, stands proudly on one of the Bairro Alto squares. His masterpiece, The Lusíads, tells the story of the explorer Vasco da Gama. Strolling through the Bairro Alto alleys, you'll encounter a mix of murals, graffiti, and artistic expressions reflecting the city's edgy and rebellious spirit. There are even walking tours available to celebrate and experience more of Lisbon's street art. And I would say that Lisbon has some of the most extensive and best street art of any city I've visited. The Bairro Alto neighborhood also has many statues that cannot help but catch your attention. So from Alfama, as Emily mentioned, and Moraria to the trendy Bairro Alto, Lisbon's neighborhoods are bursting with charm and character. Lisbon's street life is vigorous and exciting, almost as much so as its people. So I now welcome Barcelona to tell us more about street life there.
And almost as much so as Barcelona. Let's hear about that now.
So when we do these destination duels, I find myself talking about variety a lot because that's honestly my favorite quality in a place. I'm not interested in a one-note city, and Barcelona is anything but that. Barcelona's old city was built over the Roman ruins of a town they called Barcino, where they dedicated a temple to Augustus that you can see here. On the street outside, you have Roman walls right cheek by jowl with modern life and this busker. In the Middle Ages, Barcelona was ringed by medieval walls and now sports a charming jumble of small streets and alleyways, helping you to turn back time as you wander around and realize that Barcelona's architecture matches with its financial and commercial boom times. We see that here with the Gothic architecture when trade was focused on the Mediterranean and Barcelona's port was bustling, and we will see it in a minute when Barcelona bounced back in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution. The old city is bisected by the wide boulevard of Las Ramblas, which is a torrent of strolling, canoodling, shopping, and people watching. It's charming in the morning when it's quiet, and to some, it is charmingly rowdy at night. Now, another great slice of life is the Sardana folk dances. So these circle dances that I mentioned once already. People do these on the Saturday evenings. They throw their purses and their bags into the middle of the circle. They join hands and they revel in the verve and street life of Barcelona. Now, while you're in front of the cathedral, you should pop inside to see the church. It's vertical Gothic style. And what I think is its most unique feature, its charming cloister, which is an oasis in the middle of the old town, and it is guarded by 13 geese for the last 500 years. And their honking was an early alarm system to wake up the monks if there was a disturbance. So we head uptown, a short walk or metro ride away, and explore the neighborhood called the Eixample. The Eixample was built during the mid-19th century boom when Barcelona outgrew and tore down its medieval walls. It was time for a modern aesthetic, and a civil engineer named Cerda designed this extension, Eixample in Catalan, in a particular way, a grid plan with the corners cut off of the buildings for better airflow and thus hygiene and light. As the Eixample grew, it became a canvas for modernisme, the Catalan brand of Art Nouveau, combining a focus on innovation and whimsical interpretations of nature during a period of an impassioned cultural revival called the Renaixença. Modernisme's foremost leader, Montaner, wanted to create a style that would make Barcelona unique within Spain and the world, and the results speak for themselves. While the Eixample has some prime examples of modernisme style, you can find it enlivening the entire city. The Tourist Information Office has a modernisme route that has 120 sites. The most famous architecture in the Eixample neighborhood is the Block of Discord, a nickname for these buildings as they compete for your attention and are not harmonious in any architectural sense of the word. Maybe because this one, Casa Batlló, is designed to look like a dragon's back with skull eyeball balconies. Fascinating, colorful, and interesting, but not necessarily playing nice with its next door neighbor.
Yeah, we have dragon buildings.
We do.
Another neighborhood, Montjuic, is the large hill south of downtown, and it offers cinematic scenery that complements the tight alleys and modernisme marvels Lisa shared. Plus, it boasts the best views in the city. Start by taking a scenic cable car all the way to the tippy top and the castle of Montjuic, where you can enjoy sweeping views of the port and downtown from the castle's ramparts. From there, let gravity be your friend as you meander down through a dozen stunning gardens. Surrounded by palm trees, it's easy to forget you're in Spain's second largest city, until skyscrapers peek between the fronds. Further down, you'll enjoy the grand plazas and magic fountain crafted for the 1929 World's Fair, plus several of the sites we'll discuss later. You can even visit the old neo-Moorish bull ring, which today functions as a shopping mall. By the end of your Montjuic stroll, I think you'll agree it offers a unique and refreshing take on street life. And the final area of Barcelona we'll feature for its street life doesn't actually have streets at all.
Hit 'em,
The
Gabe.
beach! The city's northern coast hosted miles of industrial warehouses until the 1992 Olympics dumped them into the sea and dredged up sand for beautiful beaches instead. Today, the Barceloneta neighborhood and its 3 miles of beach are like a resort just steps from the city, complete with lounge chairs, volleyball nets, and bike paths. Plus, take time to sidle up to one of the many beachside bars called chiringuitos. And even this beachy corner comes with impressive art as Frank Gehry's fish sculpture glitters above it all. At the end of a long day of world-class sightseeing, it's a unique pleasure to have world-class beaches at your fingertips, or should I say toe tips, unlike Lisbon, where the closest beach is half an hour away by train. And speaking of trains, while these Barcelona neighborhoods may seem dispersed, they're well connected by one of Europe's most robust metro systems. Barcelona is Europe's 15th largest city, but has Europe's 7th largest metro system, with 189 stations across 12 lines, compared to Lisbon's 4 lines and 56 stations. A recent survey of European cities also found that Barcelona's metro system had an above-average 75% satisfaction rate, while Lisbon's languished at 62%. Meaning that not only are Barcelona's diverse neighborhoods a sensory joy to explore, but getting between them is pretty pleasant too.
I agree. The Barcelona metro system is quite modern. And you didn't mention this, but I would also like to say that Barcelona is a fantastic city for biking. So it doesn't have, it's nice and flat. It doesn't have all those hills of Lisbon. So it is time for our audience to do their job right now and vote for Barcelona versus Lisbon in the category of street life.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much, Gabe and Lisa. You mentioned all of these metro stations that Barcelona has. Well, that's because it is a much larger city. Lisbon has less than half the population of Barcelona, so it simply doesn't
Oh.
need as many metro stations. It's more compact and more approachable.
But
And
it's not
so
more walkable.
and so Barcelona has more to explore, is what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm hearing as well. And I wouldn't
And it
want
may
to
be
climb up and down all those hills all the time.
and it may be 10% more expensive in Barcelona, but I say you get what you pay for.
You do. It's an average of $35 a day more expensive. That's not much.
Well, I know you said that Barcelona does have its own beaches, but I'm not sure a beach that's been dredged up by the city is super appealing to me. So I will take the natural white sandy beaches of Cascais, which I cannot wait to tell you about later.
The water is what, 8 degrees warmer in Barcelona. That's a big deal. Okay.
You did a lot of research.
We did.
All right.
It's time for us to close the poll. Thank you so much for
3,
voting.
2, 1. And poll. And we are going to wait until you're going to see all the results, but you're going to see them at the very end of the show. All right. And next up.
Okay, so the sites and activities category is pretty self-explanatory and gets right to the heart of the matter. What is there to do in these two cities? So let's get to it. I'd like to start with the artistic movement that was invented in Barcelona, Modernisme, and I'll be showing you my top sites for a Modernisme tour: a park, a church, a concert hall, and a home. Now here's my favorite outdoor site to get us started, the Parc Güell. Looks like Güell, pronounced Güell in the Catalan language. Designed by Antonio Gaudí, it combines greenery with a colorfully decorated terrace, and exploring the 30 acres here is a fun and pleasant way to spend an hour or two. As a matter of fact, there's a self-guided walking tour of the park in our Rick Steves guidebook, an entire guidebook dedicated to Barcelona. That's how interesting and great it is.
Meanwhile, Lisbon just gets a chapter.
So sad. So sad. Now, the tile work at Parc Güell is so colorful, cheerful, and detailed that the park is a definite must-see while you're in town. And you'll want to stop by and say hi to the cheerful dragon in the park. Now, the designers of the park were ahead of their time because they used tiles that were all upcycled pieces of discarded tiles, broken dishes, and even china dolls from local factories. Another top site is the Sagrada Familia Church, designed by Antonio Gaudí, started in 1883 and still being worked on today. Gaudí worked on the church for over 40 years before he was tragically killed in a streetcar accident, but his associates, students, and volunteers have been working to finish it ever since. Rick Steves himself says if there is one building in the world that he would like to see anywhere, it is the Sagrada Familia Church. Finished. Now, when you step inside, you become part of a wonderland of color, spires, and windows. Even with the crowds, it is a magical place where joy and faith swirl together in a kaleidoscope that is this very special building. So special that I just want to show you a few more pictures of the interior because it brings me to emotion every time. So while you're visiting the church, you might also want to go up to the towers. It's because it's a modern building. There's a lovely elevator, and they have an up-close view of the construction and a nice view of the city. Another Modernisme jewel is the Palace of Catalan Music. Built in 1908, not by Antonio Gaudí, the outside will not prepare you for what is a stunning interior. You can only see this 2,100-seat concert hall if you catch a live performance or if you book a tour. Now, the tour is going to give you a history of Modernisme and one of its foremost leaders, Montaner, who designed the building. The tile work and stained glass and acoustics make it the most charming concert hall I've ever seen. Now, I would highly recommend that to complete your Modernisme itinerary, you should include at least one apartment. Because Art Nouveau encompasses not just architecture, but decorative art such as furniture, being able to see a home that is fully designed in that style is a unique opportunity. As a matter of fact, they have furniture of the Art Nouveau period in the Orsay Museum in Paris, but they don't have it in a house like we do here in Barcelona. So Art Nouveau abhors a straight line, so the stairways are made in sinuous shapes. The hallways with signature wood and skylights, and even this precious little mushroom-shaped alcove for the fireplace. The whimsy of modernisme is sure to put a smile on your face. And the modernists didn't forget the rooftops. They made a fairy tale forest on top of the apartment buildings. So those are all chimneys with tile.
Oh.
Now, a lesser known but no less colorful apartment was Gaudí's first, the Casa Vicens. Much less touristed than Casa Batlló or Casa Mila, I would highly recommend this building to fans of modernisme. The tile work, the wrought iron work, and the woodwork, that kind of craftsmanship is unparalleled and something very hard to find today. And I would heartily argue that while Lisbon claims to be the capital of tiles, Barcelona has some of the best tile work in Europe.
Thank you, Lisa. You know, as someone who identifies as both an athlete and an artist, I love that Barcelona celebrates the great diversity of human achievement. One notable achiever emerged at the turn of the 20th century in the Barri Gothic cafe Els Quatre Gats, meaning the Four Cats. This cafe was a hub for bohemian artists like Gaudí, painter Joachim Mir, and photographer Adolf Maas. It also attracted a teenager new to the city, Pablo Picasso, and Els Quatre Gats is where Picasso hosted his first solo show. Travelers curious for a literal taste of this history can still enjoy a drink or a meal at the Eclectic Cafe. To learn more about Picasso's artistic development after that first show, stroll 10 minutes to the Picasso Museum. It doesn't house Picasso's greatest masterpieces, but it does offer a thorough sweep of his early years and several works from his finer years, and it's the greatest collection of Picasso works in his native country of Spain. For another piece of artistic national pride, stop by the Catalan Art Museum on Montjuïc, known as the Prado of Romanesque art for its impressive collection of Romanesque frescoes salvaged from remote churches all across Catalonia. But Catalan pride isn't restricted to great museums. It also plays out in the city's world-renowned sporting venues. To this day, the Barcelona Olympics are remembered for the Lluís Companys Stadium, where an archer shot a flaming arrow to light the Olympic torch, and Fermín Cacho won Spain's first gold medal in a running event. Across the street, the Olympic and Sports Museum teaches travelers about the 92 games, and a kilometer down the road, the Montjuïc Municipal Pool recalls memories of the most scenic Olympics diving competition in history. That's a view of the Sagrada Familia.
That's right. I remember the 92 Olympics, and I remember that archer. It was amazing.
But despite this Olympic glory, the true temple of Catalan sport is Camp Nou football stadium, home to FC Barcelona. FC Barcelona is half of the world's greatest football rivalry, trailing Real Madrid 104-106 in their head-to-head history. Current renovations of the stadium are expanding its capacity to over 105,000, and there's no better way to rub elbows with impassioned locals than by donning the colors and attending a game. So whether you want to tour architectural marvels, gawk at painting masterpieces, bask in Catalan music, or roar your Barça pride alongside locals, Barcelona offers diverse sights and experiences celebrating every angle of human endeavor.
Well said.
Thank you very much. We will head back to glorious Lisbon.
Thank you, Ben. And we will start at the Gulbenkian Museum. This is a world-class art collection that gets Rick's vote for the most enjoyable museum-going experience on the Iberian Peninsula. And you can fact check me. It is in the book, a direct quote. And this museum does an excellent job of walking you through 5,000 years of European, Islamic, Egyptian, and Asian art. And it's so well laid out that it's really more than an art museum. It's a look at human history through the objects that our ancestors treasured. Inside, you'll find the treasures of Egyptian kings and queens who believed that life really started with death, as well as some of the treasures that they plan to take along with them in the afterlife. These lamps date back to the 12th century and were used to light up a 14th century mosque. In Islam, lamps are a symbol of divine light. And you'll even run into some Renaissance and Baroque masters like Rembrandt. Outside this wonderful museum are 18 acres worth of lush public gardens. so that after traveling through both space and time in the museum, you have the perfect venue to ponder our ancient ancestors.
And while Barcelona does have some tiles, Lisbon has founded its culture in many ways, its artistic history, on the beauty of its historic tiles. There's even a national tile museum. Now, at home, I thought of tiles as somewhat an outdated countertop material, if I'm being honest, but boy, was I wrong. At this museum, you will uncover what an incredible art form tiles are, even with a 1700 depiction of the city. And as you have seen, tiles are literally everywhere in Lisbon. They were part of the acceptable post-1755 architectural style. The National Tile Museum's collection occupies a stunning tiled-covered convent that received donations from around the country. They've showcased the tiles as they would have originally appeared and arranged the visit in chronological order. The museum tracks the evolution of tiles through the centuries. The presentation is low-tech to keep the focus on the beauty and diversity of the traditional handicraft. There is also a chapel inside the former convent to give you a tile break, not that you'll need one. And travel brings us new perspectives, big and small. The National Tile Museum will leave you with profound appreciation with these simple yet important and beautiful little squares.
Well said, Ben. And on to our next activity, trolley tours. Exploring Lisbon on one of its public trolleys is an experience in its own right. Many of the historic lines are still using vintage trolley cars that date back to the 1920s. And if you have your Rick Steves Portugal guidebook, you can turn your trolley ride into a self-guided tour. We have 3 self-guided trolley tours in the guidebook, and they're very fun. And number 28 pictured here is a favorite because it connects those 4 different neighborhoods that we covered in the street life section. And the views from on board are simply incredible. In your streetcar, you'll climb up into the Alfama to see red tiled roofs over the Blue River Tajo. And here's our 28 trolley on its way to Lisbon's Old Cathedral. It's such a fun and unique way to see the city, but make sure you get there early and plan to catch a morning trolley because they are very popular.
That looks so fun, Emily. I have the privilege of sharing something truly special with you, Fado. Since the mid-1800s, Fado has been the Lisbon blues, literally. Mournfully beautiful and haunting ballads about lost sailors, broken hearts, and bittersweet romance. While generally sad, Fado is captivating. If you choose well and find a convivial restaurant, it might just be your most memorable experience in Lisbon. Fado songs represent Portugal's bittersweet relationship with the sea. Fado means fate, how fate deals with Portugal's adventurers and the women they leave behind. A verse from a typical Fado song goes, "O waves of the salty sea, where do you get your salt? From the tears shed by the women in black on the beaches of Portugal." And Emily, you were recently in Lisbon and heard a Fado performance.
That's right.
We have a few seconds here to give our fellow travelers a sense of what Fado is like. Fado represents the heart and soul of Lisbon, and what a strong heart and soul it is.
All right. And if we want to go back in time to Portugal's old golden age, the age of discovery, all we need to do is visit Jeronimo's Monastery. This massive structure was built in the 16th century by King Manuel as a way to give thanks to the discoveries made by early Portuguese explorers. And with all of the riches Portugal harvested from their colonies, they were able to fund an art boom back home. And during this time, we see Portugal's distinctive architectural style take shape. This style, called Manueline, after King Manuel, is famous for a unique blend of Gothic and Moorish elements, and you will probably pick up on a theme here. Most of the decorations have motifs from the sea, the source of wealth that made all of this art possible. So you'll see ships, you'll see pieces of coral, you'll see ropes, and you will also see plants and animals that were discovered in the New World. In addition to money, religion also fueled the age of discoveries, and Manuel actually built this church near the site of a humble chapel where explorers traditionally spent their last night ashore praying before embarking on frightening voyages. And if you want to see just how Portugal came to control a massive maritime empire, you can visit the Maritime Museum in the west wing of the monastery. Here you'll see the navigational tools and historic ships that the Portuguese used, like this massive barge that belonged to King João VI with 40 oars pulled by some 80 oarsmen. But he made sure he had some plush quarters to retreat to that you can see on the back there.
Of course, that's beautiful. Oh, but wait, there's more to Belém, this coastal western neighborhood in Lisbon. This White Tower from the 16th century was the last sight many sailors saw when they departed for the open ocean. Now, the last sight you might see is a 16th century soldier nearby. Today, it celebrates the voyages that made Lisbon powerful in this beautiful natural setting. And a side note, on the grassy plain nearby is a monument to the first flight across the South Atlantic from Portugal to Brazil that took place in 1922. One of the most impressive structures in Lisbon is right nearby. It's the giant monument to the discoveries. In 1960, the city honored the 500th anniversary of the death of Prince Henry the Navigator by rebuilding this giant monument. It takes the shape of a caravel ship, the traditional sailing ship of the Age of Discovery in Portugal, with Henry at the helm. And while you're here, I suggest imagining yourself as one of those historic navigators, those great ocean-going adventurers. The elevator inside takes you up to the tip top for a tingly vista, illustrating the global reach of Portuguese explorers. So with that, we can cast our votes for sites and activities. But don't forget about Lisbon's remarkable fado, beautiful monuments, and unique museums. And actually, Emily, I was just thinking, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a single museum in Lisbon requires advanced reservations, unlike in Barcelona.
That is correct, Ben. You can really just walk into all of these museums. So that means there is going to be no heartbreak when it comes to sightseeing in Lisbon.
And you don't need to plan as far ahead.
That's correct.
So I'm just hearing that the museums and sites in Barcelona are in higher demand, and you can get timed entry reservations.
Yeah, which means that you get to skip the line.
Well, in Lisbon, there is no line.
Well, hopefully all of the time slots haven't run out by the time you've booked them.
Our viewers are smarter than that.
I just think that Ben and Emily are going to be really good fado performers after this if fado is rooted in sorrow. So,
you know, I have to say, does Barcelona have any folk music, Ben? Or is it just Lisbon?
Yeah, we have
Sardana.
Every Saturday night in front of the cathedral, there's folk music. And it's free.
Come dance with us, Emily.
You don't have to get a meal with it. Okay, but we get off track, and it is time for people to cast their vote on the beautiful Modernismo or Fado, whichever you prefer, sites and activities. It's voting time. Did you already launch it?
Yeah, it's launched.
Well done. Well done.
We've been going.
Okay.
People have been voting. In fact, I think we're ready for a countdown in 3, 2, 1. All right. 2 categories down, 2 to go. You're up, Team Lisbon.
Yes, indeed. Up next, a favorite category of mine, not surprisingly, cuisine. What more can be said?
And we will start off with the headliner, pastel de nata. These little tarts are beloved throughout Portugal, but they were created in Lisbon by the monks of Geronimo's monastery, no less, which we just visited. And they're simple, they're little custard pies that are just heavenly when they are fresh out of the oven. The pastry is flaky and crunchy, and the custard is warm and gooey, and you've got to make sure to sprinkle them with cinnamon and powdered sugar. Next up, we have the Cervejaria, which is my favorite Portuguese institution. The Cervejaria is somewhere between a beer hall and a seafood tavern. The seafood is always fresh and the vibes are always convivial. These steamed clams that I had here were to die for. They came in this buttery, garlicky white wine sauce garnished with fresh herbs. And you have to make sure that you order some bread so that you can mop up the extra sauce.
It says a lot that you have a favorite institution. I'm
Yes.
to add that.
Well, seafood lovers know where you need to cast your votes. Cervejarias are also a great place to sample a Portuguese specialty barnacles. Don't be fooled by their appearance. They are delicious and they are similar to eating a clam. So if you find yourself in Lisbon, join the locals and head to Cervejaria Ramiro. This place is an institution that dates back to the 50s, and it's just known as the best seafood in town. And then there's the bifana, the perfect cheap lunch. This is a slow-cooked shredded pork sandwich in a spicy sauce. You can usually find them at little greasy spoon diners that are serving locals on their lunch breaks. So it's kind of fun to dive in there with the lunch crowd. And they're so delicious and generally cost about €5. And if you need a little digestif after all the pastel de nata and seafood and sandwiches, I recommend trying gingia. This is a sweet and sour berry liqueur that is considered a cure-all by Portuguese grandparents. And gingia typically is sold in these funky little hole-in-the-wall type joints all over downtown Lisbon, but this one, A Gingia, is a favorite. If you visit really any time of day after lunchtime, you will probably find a crowd of locals and tourists gathered outside enjoying the delicious liqueur.
This is where Rick goes, by the way, for gingia. Originally from south of Lisbon, the flavorful cataplana combines rich garlicky sausage with fresh clams, squid, and mussels, resulting in a joy to the taste buds. Cataplana is named after the dish it's prepared in, a kind of bivalve pan with two mostly equal concave halves that hinge together, so it can be open and shut just like a clam. Lisbon also has a handful of great local markets. For the traveler, this energetic food court offers branches of restaurants run by local celebrity chefs. This is a youthful, trendy scene with enticing Portuguese dishes at excellent prices. It mixes quality food with expedience and fun shared tables. And of course, throughout Lisbon, you'll find fresh fruit for sale and a variety of treats, including these sweet pastries with pineapple. And of course, we cannot not talk about wine. Quality wine is available for excellent prices in Lisbon. A nice bottle from the store. I bought a bottle last year for my sister. It was about €3.50, and she said it was fantastic. Small and creative wine bars are scattered throughout the city. You will gain an appreciation for local tastes if you stop by. And port wine is the national drink. It's a sweet, or at least usually sweet, fortified wine known for deep flavor and an essential treat to try yourself when in Lisbon. Your server can complement the right port with the right selection of snacks. The Wines of Portugal tasting room in Lisbon, a nonprofit wine appreciation venue, offers about 24 local wines. English descriptions above each tap help familiarize you, and a helpful attendant is available to assist as well. So if you're up for it, be sure to try at least a sample of Portuguese wine in Lisbon and give a mighty saúde, or toast, when you're there. So to all of you, to Emily, to the wonderful city of Lisbon and its upcoming victory, saúde. And now over to Barcelona.
All right. Thank you, Ben and Emily, for that appetizer. But now it's time for the main course. Let's take it away with Barcelona's cuisine.
So, Spanish food has more variety than Portuguese food, and that's just by the fact that Spain is larger and more diverse geographically and agriculturally. So you have specialties in Barcelona like what we have on screen here, which is fideuà, which is like a paella with very fresh local seafood, but they actually infuse the noodles in the dish with the seafood broth ahead of time, so it's super delicious and tasty. So you can get paella, but you can get this fideuà that I would recommend. Now, other local things that people eat there, really delicious sausages called butifarra, and local olives such as these beauties. Now, because Barcelona is the cultural capital of Spain, you're going to get food from all over the country, not just Barcelona proper. So you would get those wonderful hams, the jamón ibérico. This is at the market. or you would get churros with chocolate. And frankly, why wouldn't you? I appreciate a pastel de nata from Lisbon, but churros dipped in hot chocolate, that is a winner for me. I'm also something of a foodie, and one of the things that I have to say that I really appreciate about Barcelona is the affordability of its fine dining establishments. Barcelona has 14 of these Michelin Bib Gourmands restaurants. Lisbon only has 6.
And Bib Gourmand is essentially a nice fine dining restaurant, but that Michelin rates as at an affordable price.
Yes, affordable and just below 1 star. So very high quality, very good prices. And it's actually Rick's choice when he is looking for restaurants from another guidebook to try out. He likes the Bib Gourmand. So whether you are enjoying the local butafara or fresh from the sea prawns, we need to talk about the Spanish eating schedule because Americans sometimes find it difficult to get used to the tradition of eating very late dinners. But tapas, Spanish appetizer-sized dishes, are the answer to eating well at any hour. My advice is to do like the Spanish do, have a super light coffee and roll breakfast, have a snack at 11 or 11ses, as the hobbits would say, and either eat a larger lunch at a restaurant around 3 and a light tapas snack for dinner, or vice versa, having a tapas meal in the afternoon and a late sit-down dinner. So I don't want to say goodbye to Rick just yet because he's having some traditional dishes that I want to point out. So let's take a tour. In the upper section, closest to his right hand, you see calamari, so fresh from the Mediterranean. Then in the middle, the green, he has pimentos al padron. De padron, which is the Russian roulette of spiciness. You eat the peppers, they're delicious, but you never know exactly how hot it's going to be. And then to the right of that, you have potatoes bravas. And I would not consider myself a potato person, but I love 2 potato dishes in Spain. The patatas bravas, which has a spicy, slightly smoky tomato-based sauce on top. And what is not featured here is the tortilla de España, which is a potato omelet, which when you have a good one, it is amazing. And then at the very bottom of the screen, you have pan tomate, which is basically a Spanish bruschetta. They take their bread, toast it, rub garlic on it, and then Spanish tomatoes, which are so good, on top of that with olive oil and salt. And you'll often find that at hotels on their breakfast bar. And they're so nice in Spain that they will also put stain remover next to that because they're worried that people will drip olive oil on their clothes. I think that's very thoughtful. Anyway, also remember, if you are looking for a non-touristy restaurant, you need to be looking at a non-touristy time. A spot filled with tourists at 8 p.m. will be an entirely different and more authentic scene at 10 p.m. when the locals take over. And there's some of that jamón ibérico on the plata there. Barcelona also offers my favorite drink, sangria, invented by the Romans on the Iberian Peninsula. It is named for its blood red color, and it has evolved into the present-day drink that is refreshing and delicious.
Cheers, Lisa.
Cheers.
Now, in addition to great regional dishes and dazzling restaurants, Barcelona offers a variety of novel food experiences. By far the most immersive is a visit to one of the city's many markets, with the Old Town offering a good sampling. La Boqueria Market, just off Las Ramblas, is the city's most famous. A tantalizing maze where cones of olives, local botifarra sausage, exotic fruits, a parade of shrimp, and gregarious vendors clamor for attention alongside little eateries. La Boqueria is by far the most touristed market, though, so those in search of more local flavor should stroll a kilometer east to the Santa Catarina market in the El Born neighborhood, where locals buy jamón and cheese below a colorful, swooping roof with much less fanfare. The market also offers several lively tapas bars. Finally, a kilometer west of La Boqueria, in the El Raval neighborhood, the Sant Antoni market is the most local of them all. Here, you won't find restaurants, just food stalls for local shoppers, including a stand where the Masclan family has been selling fish since the market opened in 1882. And of course, Barcelona's markets come with myriad options for local cooking classes and food tours, which you'll find listed in our Barcelona guidebook. But it's not all about food. Catalonia is also home to the Penedès wine region and produces 95% of Spain's answer to champagne, cava. Even better, the hub of cava production, Sant Sadurní d'Anoia, boasts a dozen of the world's best cava wineries and sits just 1 hour from Barcelona on a cheap and frequent commuter rail line, making a wine tasting day trip an easy and effervescent escape. The world's largest cava exporter, Freixenet, is also based in Sant Sadurní and offers tours for those curious about Spanish cava production. To finish off our cuisine section, we're going to have a sweet treat and pop by Barcelona's Museu de la Xocolata. It turns out Barcelona was the first European port to unload and process cacao from the New World. Alongside surprisingly serious coverage of Barcelona's role in the production and commercialization of chocolate as we know it, the museum also features whimsical chocolate sculptures of iconic Spanish scenes and, of course, sells sumptuous souvenirs at its gift shop. From tapas to cava and bustling markets to a long chocolate history, Barcelona's culinary culture is as rich and storied as its art and architecture, making the city a feast for all the senses. So, now that we've had our fill, it is time to vote once again in the cuisine category for either Lisbon or Barcelona. Launching the poll now.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Lisa.
You're very welcome. You guys do have a great pastry, but we've got a chocolate museum.
Yes, that actually really surprised me that Barcelona was the first port to process chocolate in the New World.
God bless them. Thank you for it. I was very excited to see the Freixenet cava producing place because that's what I served at my wedding many years ago.
Really?
Yep, that's what that was we had.
We have some food to share, don't we?
Oh, we do have some food to share. Thank you.
We can finish the vote first, of course.
No, let's so while people are finishing off the poll, we do have some food. Lisa and I are enjoying a Spanish tapas-esque spread with some olives, aceitunas, some peppers, and of course, some manchego. And we are, actually, let's hear about your food.
Okay. Well, we have the classic pastéis de nata, which several local bakeries in the Seattle area make. And we have been staring at this for quite some time. So I think this is a good moment to enjoy.
Yeah, and do you see that lamination in the pastry?
Yeah, there you go on yours.
That takes some skill to achieve.
Hopefully you're not so mad at us after this that you won't let us have one.
Did you guys buy enough?
Oh yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
Because my love for you is stronger than even this duel.
Well, I brought a giant bottle of sangria, so.
And I have some cava, and you two are sipping.
Pardon my reach. We have Ruby Port from Portugal, of course.
All right. Well, before we head into our final category, a quick cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
To two great cities.
Two great cities. Cheers to all of you at home.
All our viewers, thank you for being here.
All right. And now the brief truce is over. We return to battle. All right. So let me get my screen shared here again. All right. So while Barcelona and to some extent Lisbon have plenty of sites and activities to engage curious travelers for days, for a city to be a truly great travel destination, it should also offer travelers exciting opportunities to venture beyond the city limits and change up the pace of their trip and experience diverse day trips that connect them with the wider region. And that is what we're going to do right now. We're going to connect you with some invigorating Iberian side trips.
So I will start off for Barcelona by going north. Less than 2 hours north of Barcelona is the great day trip destination of Montserrat. 2,400 feet above sea level is this gorgeous mountain with some interesting sights. There are two ways to get up to the monastery. I prefer the one shown on your screen, this cute little yellow cable car. But if you don't like to leave the ground, you can take a rack railway. Smart travelers do one each way so they get the full experience. Now, the most important site on Montserrat is the Benedictine Monastery of Montserrat, which is famous for its, I shouldn't have had all that alcohol, which is famous for its Black Madonna. The Black Madonna, or La Moreneta, legend has it she was carved by St. Luke and brought to Spain by St. Peter. She was hidden away during the Moorish invasions in a nearby cave and then discovered by shepherd children. Now pilgrims come and touch her orb that is sticking out of the plexiglass and get a blessing. Interested visitors can visit the cave where the statue was discovered and get a bit of a workout in going down and then back up the hill. But for my money, I'd rather take the funicular up to the top and take the San Juan Chapel Trail, which has better views and a really nice opportunity to hike, mostly downhill to be in nature for 45 minutes back to the monastery. Now, another day trip north of Barcelona that's worth talking about, less nature, more culture. You can take the train to the town of Figueres. It's an easy 1-hour train ride from downtown Barcelona, and the star of the show here is hometown boy Salvador Dalí, a 20th century surrealist artist. The Dalí Theater Museum pictured here, it's wise to get reservations for this site. This is the surrealist art to me, and surrealist art is both mind-bending and easily accessible. We have here a human with a cracked egg skull and a hollow feeling in his core, and I can relate to that.
Not tonight, though.
Not tonight. But to me, one of the most fun exhibits at the museum is the Mae West Room, and I wouldn't want any of you to miss this. So be sure to climb the stairs where you can look through this vantage point where the blonde draperies and the lips couch and the fireplace nose all come together to make the face of Mae West.
Now, going from north to south of Barcelona, there are, you guessed it, more exquisite beaches, and they come with heaping helpings of history and small-town charm. Perhaps the most famous Catalan beach town is sizzling Sitges, which has always drawn a colorful crowd. A century ago, it attracted Catalan creatives who transformed the town into a modernista paradise. In fact, the eccentric Museu del Cau Ferrat, featuring the collected works of modernista artist Santiago Rusiñol, describes itself as a temple of modernism. Today, Sitges is a vacation hotspot for the LGBTQ community who flock to the town's 9 cozy beaches and stroll the seaside promenade. And, best of all, this paradise is just a 35-minute train ride from the city. Another 35 minutes further is the historic haven of Tarragona. In the 3rd century, Tarragona was the first Roman settlement in the Iberian Peninsula, and this legacy is on display today. The city is a treasure trove of a dozen dazzling Roman ruins, an amphitheater seen here, an aqueduct, a Roman forum, and more, most well preserved and open to the public. But the most impressive structures in Tarragona aren't made of stone at all. They're made of people. Tarragona is a hub of the uniquely Catalan tradition of castells competitions, in which daredevil locals construct leaning towers of people 10 tiers high. The tradition began in Tarragona in the 18th century, and the World Championships are still held in the city. And don't worry, serious injury is actually fairly rare. Oh, and by the way, there are sweeping views and beautiful beaches here too. For our final day trip, though, we'll veer away from the beaches and take the high-speed AVE train 90 minutes to Zaragoza, the capital of the region of Aragon. Zaragoza is Spain's 4th largest city and offers a look at a bustling Spanish hub safely off the American tourist track. Today, the Basilica, the most popular site is the Basilica, which today is a popular pilgrimage site. Church history tells that St. James was preaching the gospel in Spain when the Virgin Mary appeared to him in a vision, gifted him a jade column and told, a jasper column. Not jade, that would be very Asian, a jasper column, and told him to build a church in her honor. Today, the Basilica is a popular pilgrimage site, and locals use the phrase, "I'm going to see the Virgin," to mean they're visiting the church. Beyond the behemoth Basilica, Zaragoza also boasts the formidable Aljaferia Palace, built during the Moorish occupation, and Curveball, Europe's first museum dedicated to the art of origami. So from mountaintop monasteries to seaside ruins and from sacred basilicas to theaters of the absurd, Barcelona's day trips are as whimsical and wonderful as Barcelona itself. Ben and Emily, Get us out of Lisbon and show us what there is to see.
Gladly. Thank you both.
Yes. Okay, well, just a 40-minute train ride from the center of Lisbon is the perfect escape, Sintra. This is a quaint and colorful town perched on a mountaintop overlooking the ocean, and it's just teeming with historic ruins, palaces, and gardens for you to explore. But the crown jewel is the iconic Penna Palace. This fairy tale castle was built in the 19th century by King Ferdinand, a German-born prince who wanted to honor the artistic heritage of his native Germany and his adopted Portugal. And the result is this totally whimsical architectural marvel. There's really nothing like it. You'll see Gothic towers and Renaissance domes that look straight out of Italy next to Moorish minarets. There is, of course, many references to the sea. Here we see King Triton guarding the palace gates and a seashell grotto. And because the palace was built on the site of a 16th century monastery, the courtyard is a former cloister. And this palace is incredibly well preserved, looking much as it did in 1910 after the royal family fled Portugal. I mean, you can see where the king and queen slept. You can see where they ate. You can even admire their tiny little seashell serving dishes. This is a very intimate look at the lives of a royal family that is rarely seen in palaces across Europe today. And when you finish with the palace, head outside to the sprawling grounds where you can get lost wandering the trails and stumble upon many romantic surprises. But if you want an escape from Lisbon that is a little more laid back, consider Cascais. This seaside resort is just 40 minutes by train from Lisbon and comes complete with charming squares, waterfront promenades, and sandy beaches. Natural sandy beaches, I might add. In the early 20th century, Cascais was where Lisbon's aristocracy went on summer holiday. So you'll find plenty of fine palaces, some of which have been turned into museums if you're like me and you just want to nose around palaces. You want to look in people's windows, so you can do that. Cascais is also home to a fishing industry, and if you're around on a Tuesday or Friday afternoon, you can witness the fish auction as local retailers snap up the day's catch. And again, if you're like me, you'll end your beach day at a little seafood place where you can sample that local catch.
Amazing. I'll have to go there when I go to Portugal next year, Emily. One of my favorite Lisbon side trips is delightful Évora. Once a Roman town and now a provincial city, it is a 2027 European capital of culture. Évora is old. These 14 Corinthian columns mark what was the temple of the Roman Forum back in the first century, but today it's used as an evocative stage for open-air concerts, which are a great thing to see in the summertime. Évora Cathedral is from the 12th century, and it's a mix of Romanesque and Gothic. You can take 135 steep stairs up for a commanding view across the Alentejo region, very dry and very sunny, interior Portugal. But I am truly fascinated by this place in Évora. It is the Chapel of Bones in the Church of St. Francis. The message above the door to the chapel reads or translates, "We bones in here wait for yours to join us," in an ominous greeting. Bones from 5,000 monks dug up from various churches in Évora line the halls. A chorus of skulls stare blankly from wall to arches. All of this was the work of 3 monks who felt this would help residents remember that material things are transient and life is all valuable. And it is worth noting this is not the only chapel of bones in Europe. There are many more. Exploring Évora's walled city is a pleasure in and of itself. You'll randomly stumble upon Roman remnants and picture-perfect flower-laden back streets, while still seeing that the city lives on today with local street vendors, and appreciating the fact that it is reachable from Lisbon in under 90 minutes. So don't miss out on Évora.
All right. Well, just 2 hours by train from Lisbon is the charming, authentic, and untouristed town of Tomar. And when I say untouristed, I mean I saw zero tourist shops there, despite the fact that it's home to a major blockbuster historical site. And that would be the Knights of Templar Castle and Convent of Christ. Built in the 12th century, this was one of the headquarters of the Knights of Templar, a medieval Christian charity that protected pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. And this round tower here was meant to resemble the sepulchre in Jerusalem. And it also was meant to represent an extension of Jerusalem in Tomar. And it's so striking and otherworldly when you see it in person. And the interior is even more so. Knights would come here on horseback to be blessed before going into battle with the Moors or before riding to the Holy Land. And one thing that I love about this place is that the knights would literally ride their horses into the chapel so that the horses could be blessed too. Fast forward a couple centuries, during the 15th and 16th centuries, this fortress became the headquarters of the Age of Discovery. So this is where explorers literally plotted the expansion of the Portuguese Empire and where missionaries trained before going to the colonies. So it's incredibly important to world history, and that history is just so tangible when you're in Tomar.
I think Tomar is Rick's favorite backdoor destination right now, or one of his favorites. To another Lisbon side trip, we will go to Coimbra, 90 minutes as well, north of Lisbon by train. In the medieval ages, when the Muslim Moors controlled Portugal, this was the country's leading city, and it was actually Portugal's capital for a century. The bridge crossing the Mondego River leads to the main square, the perfect place to begin our visit. Coimbra is home to the country's oldest university from 1290. The university's Baroque library houses a remarkable collection of antique books. Researchers are still allowed to go here and review them and enjoy this remarkable ceiling, and that you can enjoy too. The beautiful ornamentation of St. Michael's Chapel is Manueline, which Emily described for us earlier, after King Manuel I. And again, sea motifs. Notice the golden rope trimming the arch of the altar, that nautical motif so popular from that style. When school is in session, Coimbra bustles with a youthful energy. These students will surely speak some English, so you can make a new friend if you're up to it. And if you're here at the end of the academic year, you might even see the burning of the ribbons when graduates go out and burn the ribbons that are used to bind their books in celebration of the transition from student to professional life. Coimbra is also very special because the very soulful fado sung here is performed by men rather than women, which is the case in most parts of the country. This is a soundtrack for life in Coimbra and has a powerful impact on the senses. Coimbra is a delight on foot with a straight pedestrian-only main street from ancient times. So as you can see, this little city, very close to Lisbon, packs a punch. And I might add that because Portugal is a small country, the vast majority of the country is reachable as a day trip.
Yes, anything can be a day trip in Portugal.
And it is time once again for you to make a decision. Which Iberian city has the better side trips?
Starting that poll now.
Sintra.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Sintra.
I don't know if I'm not near an orb blessing, I don't know if I want to travel there.
I'm there for the Mae West face.
Oh yeah, honestly, the Gaudí Theater Museum has been like one of, if I could only go to one museum in Europe, I think that's the one I would choose.
It was really fun explaining to Nora who Mae West was the other day when I was working on this. She didn't know. So I think that they do have some really wonderful day trips.
Lisa,
I think that they stretched the definition of day trip. I know that we sleep overnight in Coimbra and Évora on our Portugal tour and really enjoy that. So I'm not 100% sold on that, but.
Hey, Lisa, though, the time-strapped traveler might not have a whole night to spend in Évora, and it's only 90 minutes by train, so.
But then you're paying those high Lisbon hotel room prices when you can sleep in Évora at a 5-star hotel for 150 euros a night.
Well, Lisbon is still cheaper than Barcelona, so you're already automatically saving money by making that choice.
All right, we're counting down in three, two, one. The final category has closed, which means what do we do next, Emily?
And now we are on to the overall impression. So this is where the four of us will make one last plea for our Iberian city. And I believe Barcelona is starting this one out. So over to you guys.
Yes, and for this one, we have no visuals. It's just us directly to you, heart to heart. And again, the sharp-witted and staggeringly attractive delegation from the great city of Barcelona will begin. And I would like to remind you that over the past hour, we've shown you that Barcelona is Europe's most beautiful city. It is both naturally beautiful, couched between serene beaches and jagged mountains, and beautiful by design, exploding with swooping modernista marvels of modern architecture and studded with stately buildings constructed to wow the world.
We have also shown that Barcelona is a city that knows how to throw a party. With its long history of impressing guests from the World's Fairs to the Olympics, it has collected a stunning assortment of sights to thrill every type of traveler.
As the proud capital of Catalunya, Barcelona is also a place of distinct identity. It speaks its own language, developed its own architectural style, and continues to celebrate Catalan cultural identity with folk dances and human towers and giant dragon puppets.
Most of all, though, as the cultural capital of the Iberian Peninsula, Barcelona is a city of diversity. Where else can you see the world's tallest and most colorful church in the morning, enjoy lunch at a bustling market, spend a relaxing afternoon at the beach, attend a match for one of the world's most wonderful sports teams, indulge in a parade of tapas, and finish with a paseo on Europe's most famous pedestrian boulevard, all in one day and all without needing to leave the city limits.
The fact is, Barcelona mixes art and athletics, sea and mountains, regional Catalan pride with Spanish classics, and vibrant local life with tailor-made tourist sites to create a gem of modern tourism. Lisbon may be a trendy new destination, but remember, new destinations are silver, old destinations are gold.
With unmatched beauty, hospitality, identity, and diversity, Barcelona has welcomed and thrilled travelers for generations, and it is ready to welcome and thrill you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your vote.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Lisa. Now, Emily and I will discuss why Lisbon truly does deserve your vote. And I must say, I am not from Portugal, but the idea that Barcelona is the capital of the Iberian Peninsula, it didn't even participate in the centuries-long Moorish domination, which is so foundational to the Iberian history. Anyway, my closing argument for all of you. Fellow travelers, Lisbon is a city that is ready to impress. It is far more compact and navigable than Barcelona, and while busy, it actually receives about half the number of tourists. Lisbon and Portugal have always been the Iberian underdog in relation to larger, more populous, and wealthier Spain. But Lisbon is a city in its prime. It is extremely affordable, about 10% less than in Barcelona, as I mentioned. And Lisbon, although Barcelona portrays it as a new destination, it is the oldest city in Western Europe, older than London, older than Paris, with top-notch museums and culture just bursting at the seams, such as with soul-wrenching fado. Its beautiful tiles, wrought iron railings reflect a traditional style seen nowhere else in the world outside of Portugal and some of its former empire. Lisbon is, I would say, as close to perfection as a city can be, and it deserves your vote in this destination duel.
Thank you, Ben. Well, while both cities are undeniably beautiful, Lisbon is the most beautiful. Sure, Barcelona has some Gaudí sites here and there. Well, Lisbon's entire cityscape is covered in a rainbow of tiles. And then there's Lisbon's green spaces. Lisbon is filled with public parks, making it easy to retreat into nature, while Barcelona, on the other hand, is one of Europe's most densely populated cities and notoriously in need of green spaces. To quote The Guardian's recent coverage on Barcelona, there is almost no breathing space. But Lisbon is more than its pretty packaging. It's a city of great depth. I mean, take Fado, for example. The music captures Lisbon's bittersweet relationship with the sea, and it captures a brand of yearning that is uniquely Portuguese, nostalgia for something that never was. And Lisbon is a cosmopolitan city. It's a place where immigrants from Portugal's former colonies are welcome to make a new life. So cast your votes for Lisbon. It is dynamic and endlessly fascinating and so easy to fall in love with.
Well said, Emily.
With
Cheers.
that, we will launch our final overall impression poll. So final impression right there. And hey, Emily, if you want rainbows, come inside the Sagrada Familia with us. It'll be like you're immersed in a rainbow. Sorry, I didn't actually start the poll. Now I have.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Lisa.
You're very welcome.
Very welcome.
And I have to say, I've noticed that we are all sort of leaning into Lisbon as the trendy new it girl, which would make Barcelona the aging starlet, no?
The classic. The classic.
Well, if it's any consolation, I'm actually taking our Portugal tour next year. So I've kind of made a personal decision to.
Yeah, Ben has cast his vote.
All right. Well, we are counting down this final vote. 3, 2, 1. All right. So we have ended that poll. And while I furiously do my tabulations, Ben, I think that you have a little note for us.
I do, but the whole presentation, we have discussed how valuable our guidebooks are, but I'll just mention it one more time. We have the Barcelona book, and Barcelona is also covered in the Spain book. And we have the Portugal book, which of course includes Lisbon. And Lisbon also has its own snapshot. And our snapshot books, by the way, are always a chapter from the main country book. But these are wonderful resources for your trip. They're definitely the best guidebooks out there. I may be biased, and I'm even more biased because I helped research the Portugal book in its current edition. But they're chock full of excellent information to help you learn more about the countries and travel there next. So I hope that they are useful for you. I know they will be. Thank you, Gabe, for tabulating.
Yes, he is doing some very exciting and difficult math right now. So, well,
I'm sorry. This is like,
it's very close.
This is the closest destination duel we've ever had.
Okay.
And are all the categories equal, Gabe? Every vote?
Oh, the final vote is worth 40%, and the initial 3 are worth 15% each.
Okay.
So I almost feel like I should have to double check my math so that I don't have to like issue an apology. But I think that I got it correct. So the winner of the destination duel is Barcelona by the tiniest hair. Here were the results. So Barcelona swept the first 3 categories in the 60%, and Lisbon was pulling some 30%. Lisbon clobbered us in day trips, 27 to 73%. Overall impression tipped to Lisbon, but with our tabulations, Barcelona came ahead by 1 point over Lisbon.
Oh,
it was out of a total of 1,000 points.
499 to 501.
Yep. So we were vying for 1,000 points, and Barcelona got it by 2.
Oh, yeah, hair. Well,
wow.
It feels like we're all winners with this one. I mean, Lisa and I still get bragging rights, but it feels like we're all winners.
Yeah, and I was just, doing the research for this. My love for Barcelona was reignited, and it's going to be on my itinerary sometime in the next 2 years because it's a beautiful city, and I was excited to represent it a little bit.
And, I feel it's worth noting that Emily studied abroad in Barcelona.
It is, and I switched teams for this show, but I think the moral of the story is they really are 2 great Iberian cities, and you can't go wrong.
Yes. Agreed.
So please remember that in 2 nights, Emily is hosting our Tours 101, the last one of the year. For any of you who are tour curious, you can check that out. Next week, I will be on the show with our frequent collaborator, Robin Stencil. She and I are going to celebrate the 2 new guidebooks that have just come out, the Rome, Venice, Florence guidebook and the Naples and the Amalfi Coast guidebook with our Italy Blitz. We're very excited about that show. And then the week after that, we've got Gabe and his trip report in France. So sign up for those shows and please join us.
Bye, everyone. Thank you
all.
Obrigada.
Night.